for those who don't know me, over at Brown Chiropractic. I see many familiar faces today. Last time I was in here speaking was about the anti-inflammatory diet, and during that lecture it seemed like a lot of people had questions about supplements and things along those lines. So today I have come up with a lecture for women's health specifically. As last time there was a lot of women in the audience. And this is going to be focused on supplements that you can be taking to help boost your health as a female. So a common myth that almost everybody seems to follow is that as I age, I have to become unhealthier. I have to start breaking down. People say, oh, it's just a matter of aging, so therefore this is happening. Well, I like to try and break that myth and tell you that that's not necessarily true. Somebody who's 50 years old versus somebody who's 30, what happens is that there's stresses in life, whether it be physical, chemical, these types of stresses, or even emotional actually, that wear down on your body and over time. And your body has to be able to fight those and repair itself during all those stresses. Now when you're 50, there's more opportunity in your life for these stresses to impact you versus somebody who's younger. But what you can do is you can combat these stresses through healthy lifestyle. If you're somebody that doesn't eat well, doesn't exercise, smokes, drinks too much, these are all stresses that can hurt you more than benefit you. And so it's a tug of war against what are you doing that's healthy versus what are you doing that's going to be harmful. So the take-home message is if you're doing things to take care of yourself, you don't necessarily have to age and break down. So why use nutrition? Why not just take the blue pill, take the purple pill for everything? In my opinion, as a nutritionist and a chiropractor, nutrition is a heavily overlooked piece of the United States healthcare system. There is a pill for everything, whether it be high cholesterol, high blood pressure, mood disorders. There is an answer for all that by pill, and then each one of those pills, if you ever see a commercial, has a whole host of all these other symptoms that occur. But don't worry, there's a pill for each one of those symptoms too. Which is why I love that little picture I put up there, because essentially it kind of just shows a comparison of how your refrigerator could look to support health, treating health, not just sickness, and instead of just taking each type of drug for each condition. Just to put up an example there, 2/3 of Americans overweight, and the weight gained after somebody in their 20s leads to all of those types of illnesses. The top two, heart disease and cancer, are the #1 and 2 killers for Americans. So all because of that one thing. So if you take care of yourself by doing what you see on the right side and preventing what's on the left, you can actually be much more benefited in the long run. So as I said, today is more about supplementation as opposed to whole food options. There are a lot of great benefits of whole foods. But why not just treat yourself by eating well and skip the supplements? In an ideal world, then that would be the case. You could just eat all the proper foods to get all the nutrients you need. Unfortunately, in today's world, it's not quite that way anymore. You're looking at over-farming, which is inducing nutrient depletion in soils. So if you take an apple today versus an apple 100 years ago, the nutrients in comparison are far, far less. So you get less out of every food that you take. In addition to that, you can look at things like the time it takes for something to get to you. We're living in Maine. Those bananas you see at the grocery store have been shipped up from somewhere in the south, and that time it takes depletes nutrients. You can also look at the transport process, the manufacturing process, what's happening to those, as well as even the cooking processes of food that delete a lot of vitamins and minerals. And then not to mention, if you're not going organic, you're going to be getting a lot of pesticides or antibiotics in the foods. So supplementation in that respect has become a very necessary thing for people to do to get all the proper nutrients that they need. People are, in a general basis, very nutrient depleted off of what they're eating in their everyday life. Conversely, supplementation is not an excuse to eat poorly either. I think many people believe that they can, eat whatever junk food they want as long as they're taking their daily multivitamin, they're going to be okay. But that's not the case either, because you really need to support the main core, and the supplement, the term supplement is to supplement something. So if you're supplementing a bad nutrient intake, then you're really not doing yourself very much good either. So before we get going into all the different supplements, I do want to point out that that very top page that you have there is a supplement order Just something for you to look through as we are going through this lecture. If you are to order today, everything on that list is 25% off for you. So let's begin with the core four, as I call them, 4 supplements that everybody should be taking, regardless of their health level, age. A multivitamin. It covers all your basic vitamin mineral needs. Therefore, as we're talking about with foods that are generally deficient overall, this is how you can get all your basic vitamins and minerals. They're not elevated in any specific way. It's kind of a good balance between all of them to get your basic daily needs. We will talk more about some multivitamins that can be specific for certain things as well in the next few slides. Fish oil. So if you saw my last lecture, I did heavily talk about fish oil. Fish oil for its anti-inflammatory properties for one. That is the EPA component of the chemical fish oil. There's also a central nervous system benefit in the DHA component. So if you're looking at things, any type of neurologic type condition, and just the health of your nerves, that's going to be beneficial as well. We will also be getting into fish oil a little later as well when it comes to joint health. Then a B-complex is also one that I recommend. You do have the B vitamins in your multi, but the B vitamins are heavily used within the body. There's so many different functions that they use all together, actually, in combination within your body, and those are ones that can often be depleted. Cooking can greatly reduce the amount of B vitamins that are in foods in the first place, so it's generally a very good one to have as your base as well. And when it comes to stress and energy levels, very important. And stress and fatigue are 2 things that many people are dealing with daily. So for that reason, it's one that I like to have people take in daily. And then finally, vitamin D. And vitamin D is going to be a big one for this lecture, since it is women's health. And so we're going to be talking about that one a lot more as well. So talking about multivitamins, we're going to go through a few that I recommend here, and there's a whole host of different types of multivitamins out there. And when it comes to which one should I be taking and why, I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. But these are generally the ones that I recommend the most. We do have a line called Wellness Essentials. They come in these boxes, and actually I'll hand out some of these for people as we talk about them. The Wellness Essentials is by a company called Metagenics, and they're a very high quality company, very well respected. What the Wellness Essentials is, it actually covers all of your needs in one. So when we get talking about the fish oils or the vitamin Ds, depending on the Wellness Essentials package that there is, it'll actually have those elevated levels for you as well.
Is it in one thing, or is there like several?
They come in packages, and each package will have each one of those for your daily dosage, essentially. So I'll pass this around here for you just so you can look at right on. Now I also this is women's health, so that's the women's health specific one. So when you look at that one, you're going to have increased iron, increased vitamin D, increased calcium. It's going to have the fish oils in there as well for you. And that's in addition to all the vitamin and minerals basics. Now I did also put in one for joint health, and then one for men's health, because husbands in your life, boyfriends, they need healthy too. So I do have one for them as well here. And this, it's specific to men because it does a couple things. It has a included supplement that helps boost testosterone levels. So as you age, keeping your testosterone levels up is very important. Also helps with some libido and vitality effect as well. But I'll pass that one around. This wouldn't be for anybody here, but I had thought that maybe if there were some men in the audience that wanted to come today, that would be useful for them to see. And then finally, joint health too. Sue and I were talking about joint health earlier. This one here is another whole package, and what it does, it has the basics again, but it also includes things like glucosamine, which is very important for joint health. Elevated levels of fish oils as well, which is great for anti-inflammatory effect. We're going to talk about more about that later. I'll just hand this out and pass it around just so you can take a look at it too. And then finally,
is that like a monthly supply, or how long is it?
It's a monthly supply for each one, yes. And then there's also another one we carry called Core Level Health Reserve. And that's this one here by NutriWest. It's not like the Wellness Essentials in that it's not like 3 supplements in one, but it's a great multi that also contains some extra herbal remedies too. So it's one that's also been very useful that we found if people don't want to go for the everything package kind of deal.
Would you, if you were going to take one of those, would you only take one of those kind of packages? Like, would you pick just the joint one or just the women's one? Or would you pick?
That's a great question. So basically you're saying if say you're a woman that wants a woman's health but also has some joint issues?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would recommend for that, I wouldn't say buy both. I would say buy the women's, and then when we talk about the joint health section, then get a couple of those in there to help with that. Because you're not going to need, between the two of those, you're going to have so much of the general multi that it's just going to be too much at that point.
And do you take the packet once a day, or do you take the there are 2 packets a day, or?
Yeah, it should be a package a day in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that one has 6, so you take 3 in the morning, 3 at night.
That's what I was going to ask,
And then
timing.
this one
Yeah.
says,
Timing
take
is
1 packet twice
I
daily.
need my glasses, so.
yes, and timing is important too, which is something I'm going to touch upon later with the calcium. I can just talk about it now. Calcium, for example, you can only absorb 250 milligrams at any given time. So a lot of calcium supplements might have 1,000 milligrams in there. And if you take that all at once, you're only going to absorb about a quarter of that. So when it comes to calcium, you're going to want to actually take, separate throughout the day, maybe take some in the morning, some at night, as opposed to all at once. Okay? So that is something important to think about when you're taking these. If it's a very high dosage, I would split up what you're taking and just take either 2 times a day or 3 times a day, depending on how much there is.
And is this gender neutral?
That one is gender neutral. Yep, that's focusing it in on joints specifically. So the base that's going to be in there is going to be for men or women. Okay, so now we're going to get into the middle-aged section, talking a little bit more about bone and joint health. The big one, the big concern for everybody in this room essentially is bone loss, osteoporosis, something you really don't want to have to worry about as you get older. Hip fractures, 1 in 5 people who suffer from a hip fracture will die within a year, which is a staggering statistic, but it's so debilitating that it has that effect, all kinds of complications afterwards, either post-surgical or just from the injury. That's something that everybody here wants to avoid, is that. So your joint health or the bone health is very important, especially since when it comes to bone loss, the first symptom really is a fracture. You're not going to know until something breaks and then you get tested, unless you're being checked ahead of time. So it's something you want to be on top of, especially as I put geography in there, especially living in Maine. And that takes us right into vitamin D. The reason why people in northern countries or states are more susceptible to this is because you're not getting enough vitamin D. And vitamin D is a very necessary vitamin for you when it comes to absorbing calcium. Without vitamin D, you're not getting the calcium in. And so everybody living here, especially this time of year, we're not getting the vitamin D that we need. And then when we do, starting May time frame, if we go outside and put on that sunscreen, that blocks all the UV rays that are actually going to convert vitamin D for you to utilize. So you could be in a losing situation there too. So vitamin D is a hugely important one. I'll pass around 2 that we have here. The minimum dose I recommend for general maintenance is 1,000 IUs. So this company, Metagenics, has a D3 1000, so it's 1,000 IUs. It's 1 a day, and actually it's 120 tablets. That's going to last you a very, very long time. And it's in the D3 form, which is important when you're thinking about supplements, because some cheaper supplements out there could be in the D2 form. So if you're taking in D2, sunlight actually is what converts D2 to D3 to be utilized by the body. So if you're taking D2 and then you're not getting any sunlight, it's just useless vitamin D. That supplement, it's already in that form, so as soon as it's absorbed, it's immediately utilized. Now, if you are middle-aged or menopausal, post-menopausal, living in a northern state, maybe even already have some bone loss, then I recommend boosting it to a 5,000 IU. You know, this is something actually, the more people I talk to, the more I'm leaning towards the 5,000 versus the 1,000 anyway. I would actually probably recommend 1,000 more for a younger crowd, you know, women who are in their 20s.
He's being
Oh,
very
he's being
gentle.
really- I guess you have our charts.
Yeah.
Nobody here is old. I'm just saying that when it comes to osteoporosis, it's actually best prevented when you're in your 20s.
Too late.
And so 5,000 is a bigger boost for you now. And then, you know, going into calcium too. Calcium is ultimately the mineral you need. You know, it's what's in bones and is very important for bone health and strength. And the vitamin D is there to bring the calcium in. So you want to supplement with the calcium as well. And we just spoke about the dosage for calcium. And there are healthy versions of calcium versus unhealthy forms of calcium, or yes, less utilized. If you were to go a cheaper supplement of calcium, calcium carbonate is usually the calcium that's used in those. Calcium carbonate is very little absorbed in the human body with calcium carbonate. So you want to go with the calcium citrate, calcium lactate, coral calcium, and then there's also this MHCH, which is a type of calcium too that's actually also found in these, MCHC, I'm sorry, which is a microcrystalline cellulose. And that's what's found in this supplement here we have. So this is 3 tablets, which makes up 1,000 milligrams. So for this one, for example, I would say take 1 with each meal. So I'll pass that on to you. I also want to touch upon boron. Boron, in some recent research, has actually been found for postmenopausal women to enhance calcium absorption or reduce its retention, or to improve its retention. Therefore, when you're taking calcium, it's eliminated through urine, and boron is being shown to actually reduce the amount that you will lose through urine in postmenopausal women. So, if you're taking calcium, taking one with boron can be very, very helpful for you to help really utilize the most calcium that you're getting. And so this one here is called our Recal B. So this is a calcium I would recommend specifically for women who are postmenopausal, because it does contain the boron as well as some elements of vitamin D, and it has some other boosters to help with breakdown within the digestive system to enhance absorption too. So this is 120 tabs, and it's got 60 servings in it. So 2-month supply, but only if you're postmenopausal. If you're pre, I would go with the general calcium and vitamin D. And actually, the vitamin D in that one anyway is not 1,000 IUs. It's a little bit lower. So I would recommend going with vitamin D anyway. Let's see. Exercise. I don't have that one here. That one's on you. But weight-bearing exercise is very important to maintain bone health. It's something called the Wolff's Law, which basically states that the more pressure that's put on bone makes bone grow and build. And so that's a very important piece. It's the best way, or one of the best ways to help maintain bone health as well. So if you're not doing weight-bearing exercise, you definitely need to do that as well. And then we're going to talk about progesterone. Progesterone's that's the big hormone when it comes to all the menopausal symptoms, even bone loss for women. Basically what happens through menopause is progesterone drops, and then they become estrogen dominant. So you're going to look at all these different types of symptoms that occur because of that: hot flashes, irritability, in addition to the bone loss. Now we have a product called Progesterone Plus, which comes from an herb called wild yam. And it's a natural progesterone that makes it very, very safe. There's nothing harmful about it, but it's a cream, and you rub it on skin once a day over thinner skin, and that's going to absorb and help enhance your progesterone levels. We're going to talk a little bit more about that on this next slide, or next 2 slides, as we go into menopause. menopause is the end of the menstrual cycle, where you develop all these different hormone changes. As I said, it's majorly progesterone dropping, and then you become estrogen dominant. And so you want to, when it comes to all of these different types of symptoms, hot flashes, irritability, panic attacks, anxiety, insomnia, even heart issues, and then bone loss too, it's all because of that progesterone dropping. So what we want to do is get the progesterone levels back up to help you get into a better balance. So here we go. So when it comes to menopause, these are key elements in helping to reduce symptoms, but also prevent the really important dangers, which are the bone loss and the heart health. The first two are magnesium and vitamin E. They do things, but they're more for the preventing the symptoms. So looking at the hot flashes, irritability, and panic attacks. They're very good at reducing those. However, magnesium as well. Magnesium is also a very important element of bone health. It's 50% of magnesium in your body is actually in your bones, as it is attached to the calcium or phosphorus that's in your bones. So if you are magnesium deficient and you have bone loss, that's going to be an important piece for you as well. We do have this product here called Natural Calm. It's actually a powder that you make into a tea, and this has the higher magnesium levels. So this company actually recommends taking this with a calcium supplement, and you can kind of get the all-around benefit for bone health too. But it's also a great calming supplement to take. I know a lot of people have taken this and love it. They'll make this warm tea before they go to bed, and it kind of soothes you.
What does it taste like?
This one is a raspberry lemon flavor. It's very tasty. I don't know, has anybody here tried it?
I haven't tried it.
You haven't tried it?
Yeah, but I now will.
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting huge amounts of magnesium, which actually research shows that most people are actually slightly magnesium deficient, and magnesium is very important when it comes to all these little problems that kind of go on. They kind of fly under the radar. They're kind of there. You kind of notice, but don't really. It's often because of magnesium, and over time that does affect your bone health too. So I'll pass this one around here. And then, of course, the magnesium also in your multivitamin, and that's generally in good levels, and so you should be getting that through there as well. Evening Primrose Oil is an oil that helps stabilize your hormones between progesterone and estrogen. Essentially, when you are low in progesterone, your estrogen is very high. You become estrogen dominant. Unfortunately, when things like breast cancer, those are estrogen dominant diseases. When the estrogen is overreactive, that is what is inducing the cells to change and develop into breast cancer. So to counteract that, excuse me, we want to increase the progesterone, balance those hormones out so you're no longer estrogen dominant, and therefore help you prevent things like breast cancer. The black cohosh, same thing. Also, and actually, let me pass this around now that we've been talking about it. This is the progesterone plus. Those are also within this oil or cream, in addition to the natural progesterone. So you're getting all those benefits as well.
So if you could just back up a little bit, black cohosh is in that?
Yes.
Yes, and the evening primrose?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is in both, in addition to the natural progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard great things about it. I've never used it, so I can't attest personally, but I've heard, speaking to Dr. Brown, fantastic things. Patients, she's even tested somebody who's increased their bone density over a year's time by using that. So I think it sounds pretty good to me. CoQ10 is one that people may not generally think for women's health specifically. Has anybody here heard of CoQ10 before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's actually especially important. I don't know if anybody here is taking a statin drug, or if you know somebody who's taking a statin drug, but CoQ10 is one that I don't just recommend, but say you really need to be on this. And the reason being is because statin drugs, the goal of a statin is to stop the cholesterol creation in your body. Unfortunately, it breaks that development of cholesterol too early in that chain. To make cholesterol, there's a series of steps, and it cuts it right after that first step. But also, after that first step, there's the creation of CoQ10, also known as ubiquinone, which is a coenzyme that's within muscle tissue for muscle strength and contraction and energy. And it's in highest concentrations within your heart. The heart needs a lot of energy as it's constantly beating, so that CoQ10 is very, very important to have. But if your statin is breaking that process of it being made, then that can create disastrous effects, which is why whenever you see the statin commercials, it goes to all kinds of things, talking about heart conditions and even death for people. It's just draining heart energy. And so whenever anybody's on a statin drug, I say you really need to be on this to maintain that, because the statin's blocking its creation in your body.
No, you find that in the multi, the CoQ10?
No.
No, that's
No.
extra.
CoQ10, yeah, you rarely, if ever, will find that in something else. That's generally sold by itself. But pretty important if you're worried or concerned about health issues or taking a statin. And then finally, let me pass that around. That's CoQ10. And then finally, Biostress B is our B complex. So we talked about B complex earlier. You know, there's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 12 are all the B complexes, or all the B vitamins in the B complex. Biostress B actually gives it to you in a natural form, so it's actually yeast and a rice bran is where the sources are coming from. So it's sort of a whole food source of B vitamins. And they are crucially important. If you know somebody who's on birth control, that actually drains your B6 levels in your body. So anybody on birth control should take B6. If you are a vegetarian, or even more so vegan, most B12 is consumed through animal products, meats. So people who are not eating enough of that should really be taking B12 too. And when you're looking at just your general energy levels and stress levels, the B complex is really going to come in handy for you. So that's this one here. Any questions?
Yeah, okay, so if you were taking your multivitamin
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Would you take I could see CoQ10 you would maybe take for various reasons, but wouldn't the B complex be in the multivitamin?
The B complex is, but remember, going back to that one page of the core 4, I usually recommend a B complex with a multi. The levels of the B vitamins that are in the multi, you know, they're okay, but they're not great. And just because the B vitamins are so heavily used within the body, it's one that I generally recommend to people to take in addition to it. Actually, one thing I touched on with the B vitamins as well is, anybody heard of homocysteine? Homocysteine is this marker that doctors are doing in blood testing now, and it's become known to be maybe even the #1 marker when it comes to predicting heart attack. Homocysteine is a result of amino acid conversion, and so when this is very high in the body, for some reason it's indicating heart attack. B6, 9, and 12 work together to actually convert that homocysteine back to amino acid, which has been a pretty interesting finding. So again, looking at heart health, a B complex can be very beneficial for that too.
So is the B complex higher in the men's vitamin?
It's a great question. Because of heart conditions? I doubt it.
So again, supplement it with a B complex if you're going to.
Yeah, because what those are is your multi with fish oil with some specific others for your condition. So with the men's, it's going to be the fish oil with the multi with the testosterone enhancing effect and the libido the libido one. The women's would be the multi with the fish oil with some elevated iron, calcium, vitamin D. I think there was some other things too.
There's definitely some different on each,
Some things women need a little bit more than men. So actually, B9 might be actually higher in the women's than men, because women generally have a higher B9 demand than men do.
but you can't, like, I know, like, vitamin A, you should have, like, too much.
Forms of vitamin D you can overdose.
You can,
It's in the retinal form, whereas the beta-carotene form, you can't.
You can't.
And yeah, people often ask about overdosing, what's too much. It really does take a lot to overdose on a vitamin. The only one that would be kind of close would be the vitamin A in that form, which is why if you look at that, usually they're in the beta-carotene form,
Yeah, it
and it
says
should
that,
say that.
it's mixed carotenoids and 50% as a retinol.
Yep. So you'd
Same
be
in-
perfectly fine
yeah.
with that. And it's really pregnancy effects too, which is important for women. So if it is a woman who's pregnant, then you want to make sure it's not retinol form and it's beta-carotene form. But as far as other ones go, when it comes to vitamin D even, because when I recommend to somebody 5,000 IUs and say, well, am I going to overdose on that? The only argument really is if somebody's taking 40,000 IUs or higher, and even any research done on that has not even really been that conclusive to prove that it would cause an overdose. So all these things that you're looking at here, they're all very safe. I know you actually, Sue, you had some questions specifically about calcium too. So hold on to that. We'll get that thing into. Arthritis. So arthritis, as you know, often found more in older crowds, because, like I said earlier, more physical demands as time goes on can lead to breakdown. So we're going to talk about a few things that we can do here to improve healthier joints. Fish oil is the first one, the anti-inflammatory effect. We talked about that last time as well. If you have pain in that joint, you want to get the inflammation down, fish oil is a great regulator in the amount of inflammation that you're making. Also known as prostaglandins are those chemicals specifically. So you want to regulate that amount to reduce pain. Glucosamine and chondroitin. Those are essentially the cartilage chemicals of your body. So when you supplement glucosamine and chondroitin, you're giving your body more of those chemicals to be utilized. If you are allergic to shellfish, you don't want to be taking that because often it's a shellfish form. And also, if you are taking that too, you want to make sure you're drinking enough
Excuse
water.
me for the interruption, but there are about 4 vehicles out around the circle and the bus can't get in and they need to be moved, please.